The Atharva Veda is the latest Veda and contains hymns, some from the Rig Veda, but also spells and charms which reflect aspects of popular beliefs and practices. It is the latest of the four. It describes the popular beliefs and superstitions of the humble folk. It is divided into 20 volumes. It contains 731 hymns and 5,987 mantras. About 1200 mantras have been taken from the Rig Veda. The hymns of Atharva Veda tell how to overcome the evil spirit. Shank and Pippalar are the two available branches of this Veda. The Atharva Veda is also known as Brahma Veda or Atharva Giras Veda. For a very long time, it was not considered in the category of the Vedas. It is a book of magical formulae. The Brahmanas are prose explanations of the Samhita portions and give details and explanations of sacrificial rituals and their outcome. The Brahmanas were composed after the Vedas to explain the hymns of the Vedas. Every Veda has several Brahmanas attached to it. Kaushitiki and Aitareya are the Brahmanas' books of the Rig Veda composed by Hotri priests. Taittiriya is the Brahman of Krishna Yajurveda and Shatpat is attached to Shukla Yajurveda composed by Advaryu priest Yagyavalka. It narrates the progress of culture from Kuru Panchal to Videha. The Samaveda has three Brahmanas, that is, Tandayamaha Brahman, Khadvisha Brahmana, and Jaiminiya Brahman were composed by Udgatri priests. The Gopath Brahman is attached to the Atharva Veda. The Aranyakas, forest books, interpret sacrificial rituals in a symbolic and philosophical way. There are 7 Aranyakas, that is, Aitareya, Sankhyayana, Taittiriya, Maitrayani, Madhyanandin, Talvakar, and Jaiminiya. These books are opposed to sacrifices and rituals and lay emphasis on meditation and moral virtues to form a bridge between the Karma Marga way of work and the Gyan Marga way of knowledge. There are 108 Upanishads, among which 13 are considered the principal ones. The Upanishads contain a great variety of philosophical ideas about sacrifice, the body, and the universe, but are most closely associated with the concepts of Atman and Brahman. The word Upanishad is a combined form of the two Sanskrit words, that is, Upa and Nishad, which means to sit down near someone and get the secret knowledge from him. Jesh, Kath, Kane, Mandukya, Brihadaranyaka, Mundaka, Chandogya, Taittiriya, Aitareya, and Kaushitiki are some important Upanishads. The Upanishads are anti-ritualistic, discussing the theories of creation of the universe and defining the doctrine of action with the goal to attain salvation through meditation and self-control. Upanishads also contain stories in order to give teachings on the meaning of life. Most of the Upanishads were written between 800 BC to 500 BC. The famous national statement Satyameva Jayate has been taken from the Mundaka Upanishad. The 6 Vedangas Shiksha, Kalpa, Vyakarana, Nirukta, Chanda, and Jyotisha were composed in the later Vedic period. 1. Shiksha deals with the appropriate pronunciation of the mantras. 2. Kalpa is related to rituals, duties, and sanskar. 3. Vyakarana deals with grammar and the science of language. 4. Nirukta with etymology. Yaskacharya's Nirukta is very famous. 5. Chanda deals with rhyming schemes. Chanda Sutra was composed by Acharya Pingal. 6. Jyotish deals with astronomy in which we find the proper calculation of the right position of the sun and the moon and various heavenly bodies to perform rituals and ceremonies. Jyotish Vedanga is a famous book for it, in which we get as many as 400 shlokas. Epics are another source of Smriti texts, in which the Ramayana and Mahabharata are most important. The Ramayana, the oldest epic in the world, is known as Adi Kavya. It consists of 24,000 shlokas divided into 7 kandas: Balkand, Ayodhyakand, and Aranyakand, Kishkindhakand, Sundarkand, Lankakand, and Uttarkand. The first and seventh kands were the latest additions to the Ramayana. The Ramayana is said to be composed in the 5th century BC. Originally, it had only 6,000 verses. Later on, it became 12,000, and finally, it has 24,000 shlokas. The Mahabharata of Ved Vyasa is the longest epic in the world, consisting of 1 lakh shlokas in 18 parvans or chapters, in which Shanti Parvan is the largest parvan. The Bhagavad Gita is extracted from the Bhishma Parvan of the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata is said to be composed between 400 BC to AD 400. Originally, it had only 8,800 shlokas under the name of Jaya Samhita. Later on, it was called Chaturvinshati Sahasri Samhita or Bharat, consisting of 24,000 shlokas. And finally, it became Mahabharata or Shata Sahasri Samhita with 1 lakh shlokas. It is also called Pancham Veda. The Purana means the old. There are 18 Puranas, in which the Matsya Purana is the oldest Puran. These Puranas describe the genealogies of various royal dynasties, that is, Maurya, Andhra, Shishunag, Gupta, etc. The name of Puranas is Brahma, Padma, Vishnu, Shiva, Bhagvat, Narad, Markande, Agni, Bhavishya Brahma Vaivartya, Lingavara, Skanda, Vaman, Kurma, Matsya, Garur, and Brahmand. Besides these, there are 19 Upapuranas. Lomharsha, or his son Ugrashrava, is said to be the compiler of Puranas. Smriti means remembrance. Smritis, the auxiliary treatises of the Vedas, are regarded as a part of the revelation. There are 6 famous Smritis: Manusmriti, Yajnavalkya Smriti, Narad Smriti, Parashara Smriti, Brihaspati Smriti, and Katyayan Smriti. Buddhist literature. Early Buddhist literature is generally divided into canonical and non canonical texts. Canonical texts are books which lay down the basic tenets and principles of a religion or sect. The various Buddhist schools classify their canonical literature in different ways, some into 9 or 12 angas, others into 3 pitakas. There are Pali, Chinese, and Tibetan versions of the Tipitaka, the 3 baskets or collections. The Pali Tipitaka of the Theravada school is the oldest of them all. Pali was a literary language which developed out of a mixture of dialects, particularly those spoken in the Magadha area of eastern India. The Tipitaka consists of 3 books: the Sutta, Vinaya, and Abhidhamma. In the Buddhist context, Sutta, from the Sanskrit sutra, refers to texts that are supposed to contain what the Buddha himself said. The Sutta Pitaka contains the Buddha's discourses on various doctrinal issues in dialogue form. With the exception of a few suttas, the authority of this work was accepted by all Buddhist schools. The Vinaya Pitaka has rules for monks and nuns of the Sangha, monastic order. It includes the Patimokkha, a list of transgressions against monastic discipline and atonements for these. The Abhidhamma Pitaka is a later work and contains a thorough study and systemization of the teachings of the Sutta Pitaka through lists, summaries, and questions and answers. The 3 Pitakas are divided into books known as the Nikayas, analogous but not identical to the Agamas of the Buddhist Sanskrit tradition. For instance, the Sutta Pitaka consists of 5 Nikayas: the Digha, Majjhima, Samyutta, Anguttara, and Khuddaka Nikayas. The Jatakas, stories of the previous births of the Buddha, are one of the 15 books of the Khuddaka Nikaya, and their composition can be placed between the 3rd century BCE and the 2nd century CE. The Khuddaka Nikaya also contains the Dhammapada, a collection of verses dealing mainly with ethical sayings, and the Theragatha and Therigatha, songs of Buddhist monks and nuns. The Therigatha, which describes women's experience of renunciation, is especially important because it is one of the very few surviving ancient Indian texts composed by or attributed to women. According to Buddhist tradition, the Sutta and Vinaya Pitakas were recited at the first council of monks at Rajagriha immediately after the Buddha's death, and 100 years later at the second council at Vaishali. But their composition must have extended over several centuries, up to the time of the Third Council convened in the 3rd century BCE during the reign of Ashoka. Non canonical Buddhist literature in Pali includes the Milindapanha, which consists of a dialogue on various philosophical issues between King Milinda, no doubt the Indo Greek Menander, and the monk Nagasena. The Netti Gandha or Netti Pakarana, the Book of Guidance, gives a connected account of the teaching of the Buddha. Commentaries on the Tipitaka include a 5th century work by Buddha Ghosha. The first connected life story of the Buddha occurs in the Nidana Katha. The Pali or Sri Lankan chronicles, the Dipavamsa and the Mahavamsa, contain a historical cum mythical account of the Buddha's life, the Buddhist councils, the Maurya Emperor Ashoka, the kings of Sri Lanka, and the arrival of Buddhism on that island. Apart from texts in Pali, there are several Buddhist works in Sanskrit, and in a mixture of Prakrit and Sanskrit that is often referred to as Buddhist Sanskrit or Buddhist hybrid Sanskrit. For instance, the canon of the Sarvastivada school is in Sanskrit. Sarvastivada Vinaya refers to the monastic code of the Sarvastivada school of Buddhism, which was founded by Katyayani Putra. The Lalita Vistara Sutra is a Sanskrit Mahayana Buddhist sutra that tells the story of Gautama Buddha from the time of his descent from Tushita until his first sermon in the deer park at Sarnath near Varanasi. The Lalita Vistara, a hagiography of the Buddha associated with the Sarvastivada school but strongly tinged with Mahayana elements, is in Sanskrit and mixed Prakrit Sanskrit. The Mahavastu, which has some Mahayana elements, gives a hagiography, sacred biography, of the Buddha and describes the emergence of the monastic order in mixed Sanskrit Prakrit. Sanskrit Buddhist texts include Ashwaghosha's Buddha Charita and the Avadana texts. Vishuddhi Magga is a comprehensive manual of Theravada Buddhism written by Buddhaghosa in the 5th century AD, which is later than Sanghabhuti's time and unrelated to him. The Prajna Paramita Sutras are a large body of Mahayana Buddhist literature dealing with the perfection of wisdom. Sanghabhuti, who went to China in the 4th century, wrote commentaries on these sutras, particularly on the larger Perfection of Wisdom Sutras. His work contributed to the understanding and dissemination of Mahayana teachings in China. Netti Pakarana, written by Buddha's disciple Kachana, is a Buddhist text that deals with logic and epistemology. Later works of Mahayana thinkers such as Nagarjuna, Vasubandhu, Asanga, Aryadeva, Buddha Palita, and Dignaga are all in Sanskrit. Jain literature. The sacred books of the Jaina are collectively known as the Siddhanta or Agama. The language of the earliest texts is an eastern dialect of Prakrit known as Ardha Magadhi. The Jaina monastic order came to be divided into the Shvetambara and Digambara schools. The Shvetambara canon includes the 12 Angas, 12 Uvamgas, 10 Painnas, 6 Cheya Suttas, 4 Mula Suttas, and a number of individual texts such as the Nandi Sutta and Anugodhara. There is some overlap in the content of the canonical literature of the two schools.